Welcome into Dynasty Mode, the unofficial EA Sports college football game podcast. My name is Arky Shea. That is Demetri Ravanos. Demetri, this podcast is all about the college football playoff. Kinda, sorta, but in our way.
Ooh,
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that because,
you just stepped into our world now, Boo Corrigan. What are you going to do?
that's right. First of all, God bless there being a Boo Corrigan in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can we just say thank you? I don't know who I thank for this, but you deserve all of the thanks.
he is NC State's athletic director, correct?
That's right. Yeah,
Yes.
I do think I quickly do think that I'm going to be disappointed when we're going to go away from the booze of the world
Yes.
and we're going to go eventually, and it'll definitely be in my lifetime, but like the cadence
Yes.
that are like the athletic directors, and it's really
They're
not going to
14
be what I
ADs
want to be a
named
part
Dylan.
of.
Hour 5. Yeah, no, that's it. Here in North Carolina. NC State is Boo and UNC is Bubba. And tell me Bubba and Boo does not sound like an adorable father-daughter country cover band that just plays at like local bars at the beach.
You know what? That's not a band I would go see, but if they're there, I'm staying.
Right. It's not a band you would choose to go see, but they keep popping up at your favorite Applebee's.
That's right. You're like, wow, they just got some referrals, don't they? Okay. Just keep running around where I'm at. That's nice. All right. I want to talk about that. But first, I want to let you know that we were working on an all questions from you guys podcast. So I want to let you know that in this podcast, especially, go into the comment section. If you have any questions for us about the video game or about our love of the video game or any questions at all, you just want to know,
no one ever told you where babies came from. We can help you out.
Well, Demetri has his science and I have
Sure.
my science, right?
Sure.
So we can tell you that. But yes, so put those questions down below and we'll start accumulating those for a podcast coming up. It's going to be all questions from y'all, the viewers and or listeners. Okay, Demetri, the college football playoff is now set, and we all know the Blue Bloods like TCU and all they're in.
Yes.
And I cannot wait to watch that 4-game playoff. I'm excited for in 2 years when we get the 12-game playoff. But more interestingly, this playoff was a little unique as far as the lead up to the college football playoff.
Right. Certainly, we knew the top two teams could lose and get in. Obviously we found out, but I think we all suspected TCU was going to get in no matter what happened in that game, so long as Kansas didn't win by like 45. But did you notice? Now, this started on Friday night because Nick Saban was on at halftime of the Pac-12 championship game.
Was that ahead of their SEC championship game?
It was. Oh, no, they were not in the SEC championship game. I don't know if you heard, Arky.
They usually are. Like,
no,
can you
not
check that real quick?
Let me. No, they were not in this year's. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it started on Friday night with Nick on the Pac-12 championship game, but on Saturday, on College Game Day, I noticed there was some lobbying from Ryan Day. There was less direct, but like just quote sort of lobbying from Josh Heupel. We saw lobbying, from those two. But my point is, when we knew there was a spot up for grabs, this happens every year, that the media outlets involved in these games, be it Fox, CBS, or the Disney networks, give the coaches platforms to do their lobbying. Now, back in the BCS days, remember, we saw this work. We saw California get bumped out of an at-large spot because Texas and Mac Brown were much better at lobbying for a spot in one of those BCS bowls. Sure. Archimedes, back in the olden days of 10 years ago with the college football video game, there was no rhyme or reason why you got left out of, be it the BCS championship game or just a New Year's Six bowl game. I think that I would like to see this element that is part of real life come to the video game. And this is something bigger than just, I want lobbying. We talked about this last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago, and then last week as well. If you are telling us we have to wait a year longer than what we expected, then you better deliver a goddamn masterpiece. And I think one of the things that would make this game a masterpiece. Now, my point of reference for what I'm about to say is Dungeons and Dragons. But all of you out there listening have probably played other video games that are just like this. Red Dead Redemption is like this. Grand Theft Auto is like this, where the story unfolds based on the results of your choices. There are not hard and fast rules for how you get from point A to point B. I think that open world storytelling nature needs to come to this game. And I think that lobbying for your postseason spot is a great place to sort of dip your toe in the water.
So let me start by asking this quick question to you. Are you suggesting that if I'm allowed to make choices in my lobbying, that one of the choices could be to carjack someone?
Yes.
And okay, all right, and then run over them and then grab the money that popped up out of their body.
That's right. And if you can evade the cops for 10 minutes, they just forget about it and you're home free.
Man, okay, so now we're talking. Now we're getting the NCAA mode back into this. I like this. Okay,
Yeah.
So
classic NCAA game.
Classic. The thing that I'm interested in is it's this lobbying aspect of it, right? So like this lobbying, Mac Brown sort of like broke the mold, sort of with being able to work. Tommy Tuberville ended up trying it, not working.
Going shockingly, Tommy Tuberville not as charming as Mac Brown.
What? No, Tommy Tuberville is a straight up guy who I would believe everything he said. The dude would not leave Ole Miss unless he were dead.
Right. His exact words, Pine Box. Actually, to be fair, we don't know how he got on the plane to Auburn.
It is true. He could have been stowed away.
Right. They could have carried him onto the plane in a Pine Box.
How great was if that was the caveat? Like he never revealed, but like that was like the little coup there. It's like, no, I was in the luggage department.
Yeah, like that's how he's revealed, right? They show the plane unloading luggage, and then just this man emerges, bursts out of a Pine Box.
Yeah, and then of course you'll get to the inevitable reveal that the yellow fellow, will know that hey, that's actually Cedar. That's right.
That he will not be happy about.
So you get back to Oxford, son. That's right. How you go back.
That's right. We don't want liars here at Auburn.
The lobbying aspect was interesting because in the BCS day, you remember in the computers, the voters are who you were lobbying, and those votes mattered, right? So if you could have convinced someone in the Associated Press to vote you one way, then that actually mattered in the computer rankings and be able to help go one way or the other. The playoff is interesting the way you're sort of talking about this, because for the first time I saw Nick Saban grovel. Which was kind of interesting, for a guy who eventually went to, and I went a little bit on this on Twitter because it really just bugged me. But the fact that like one of his two talking points were, what would the Vegas betting line be if it were Alabama or any of these other two teams? Like that matters at all?
Yeah, I think one of the things, like on the one hand, I agree with you. Like I did think like, oh, Nick, buddy. Like, you don't have
There are other arguments to make that I would listen to that are fine arguments.
Or how about this? Do that in phone calls to the voter. Like, of course you have their phone numbers. But the thing that I thought about was this, and I thought Boo Corrigan did a really good job on the Sunday show of explaining that it wasn't just the fact that it was 2 losses versus 1. It was 2 losses, and there was not this, like, no-brainer significant win to make up for that other loss. Like, the fact that it's 2 losses by 4 points, fine, whatever. But obviously you cannot have this totally open where you're speaking into the microphone on the PS5 controller and making the argument. There are going to have to be multiple choices, and that's fine. But I do think that the choices could be based obviously off of other choices you made in the game. If you've created a Nick Saban-like head coach that is, very standoffish with the media, it's going to be very hard to talk your way into some votes. But I just feel like, I've been sort of caping for a story mode in this game for a long time. I was really thinking about this after the playoff was revealed. I was driving home from the western part of the state. I kind of had a long drive. And I was thinking about how much of an opportunity there even could have been in the game 10 years ago that they missed out on, that they don't have to miss out on again, especially if you have now another year to get this right.
Yeah, I think So when I hear the word, when they describe use the word to describe what this new dynasty mode will be as immersive, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just sort of wonder, like, hey, last time was immersive. You can get all into the details if you wanted. How immersive are we getting? And if
Well,
you're going to get that kind of true essence of a story mode, which Electronic Arts has played with,
yeah.
and they have seen their competitor 2K play with, right?
Mm-hmm.
That by the time we get to this game's release date in the winter of 2030, uh, you should have a lot of ideas to be able to build upon that.
So you mentioned that, really 10 years ago, NCAA 14, that was immersive. The Dynasty mode was immersive. There were so many different things you had to do. Or I guess there were so many things available for you to do in Dynasty mode that you could fill up a whole afternoon and just get through a single week, given all that you could do in a week of Dynasty mode. The one thing that you really couldn't do, Arky, is you couldn't really make choices, right? Like you could set up your recruiting board, but the pitches had been taken away.
Mhm.
You when you hit the coaching carousel, you would see your assistants go and take jobs, be it as coordinators elsewhere or as head coaches, but you had no say over who came in to replace them or what kind of playbook you wanted to come in and replace them with. It was like you made those decisions at the very beginning of the game, and that dictated everything. And that was fine. Again, if we were getting the game back next year and it was just a not even reskinned, if it was just like, hey, here are all the teams that we're missing, here are all the uniforms that we were missing, NCAA 24. I'd be fine with it. But now that I have to wait till 2024, I expect to be wowed. And I think the opportunity is there just by filling in those blanks. And I think that the opportunity for your coach to have a real personality beyond is he fat, medium, or skinny is where it's at.
I have been reassured by someone who would know inside the walls that this year was needed for the game, or
Mm-hmm.
year and a half, 4 years, whatever it ends up
Yeah, yeah,
being. That the game, it was best for the game.
yeah.
And this is a person I would trust to tell me that this is the best for the game.
Terry
If the
EA,
game
his
is
father owns the company.
okay, well, I'm going to bleep that later.
Yeah, sorry.
So I think that if I blind, I don't. It's not blind trust because I've built up a rapport with this person. I know him. If I were to trust that being right for the game means that it could be a more immersive experience, I just wonder how much that we were going to be able to get of what we want. And I do think, and this is not based on knowledge, so what I'm about to
Mm-hmm.
say next. I do think fulfilling a story mode inside the dynasty mode is probably going to be something that is going to be focused on. It's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you that the choices for the coaches, that's great. I would like to do that. But going back to the college football playoff part, the lobbying part, the whole reason for this episode is that I think that's when you sort of can merge the two, right?
Yeah, of
Just
course.
like in Red Dead, you can sort of choose options of what to say and how to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe inside the game itself, that you're able to figure out the AI to say, to figure out your offense was really good, your offense is really bad, or hey, or you do one of those general like, hey, what's your response to, like, the committee asks, what's the reason you need to be in the playoff, and you can
Right.
choose, I've been there 4 out of the last 5 years, or
Yeah.
look at the helmet, check out the TV ratings. I'll give you $100. Like whatever it is. Like if you get at least some kind of option like that, I think that's a really successful piece of that. Now I do wonder, because by the time we do get that game out, 12 teams is not it's clearly going to be an option. So how much of that lobbying ends up happening? You know what I
So
mean?
yeah, so I thought about this too because I do think I would like to see the season end with you can choose how your season ends. Do you go to the old bowl structure? Do you go to BCS, 4 teams, 12 teams, whatever? But I do think that you would have to be on the cusp, right? You would have to be in that discussion. Let's say we're at that 12 team era of the playoffs. you would have to be in discussion for that 10, 11, 12 seed before this becomes a reality. You
Yeah.
would have to be in the discussion
Okay,
for
I see.
the
Okay.
4 or 5 seed before this becomes a reality.
So this would be like really good if you were like a Tulane this year or a
Yes.
Troy or something like that, where you sort of make that argument that, yeah, you're a quote unquote group of 5 champion
Hmm.
and you've got a whole bunch of wins. Troy won like 35 in a row. It felt like
Yeah.
Tulane got the revenge on UCF and won the American championship. That if you were just on the outside, right? Because in reality, we know the committee is going to not make it easy for even a group of 5 champion or 2 to get in,
Right.
even with 12. Then I think in a game that feels like it's more delegated toward fairness. I mean, we see when Buffalo can show up and play for a national championship, right?
Right.
That yeah, okay. A little bit of lobbying sort of still needs to be kind of a part of the game because as much as I like fair, I did kind of find it off putting in the old video game. Unrealistically, you get some like champions or teams that are in the
Yeah.
top 3 that are going into the last weekend that aren't going to be in that quote unquote consideration. But then again, like we're going back 2014, like we're still in the
BCS.
BCS. So
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know what those teams were for you, but Ohio and Louisiana were up there every year in my dynasties. Yeah, I mean, I think that, look, I think that given where AI is now in these games, I think the game and the programming could be smart enough to say, hey, if you are coming in as the 8-5 champion of the MAC, like you probably don't get to do the lobbying to be the group of 5
hold
champion
on,
that
I
gets
think you
invited.
should be allowed to, but then be punished
Sure.
or laughed out of the room.
Right.
For the phone call. Remember in one of the old video games, you had the football that was on the phone for the recruit, right?
Yes.
And like the football would get yellow if it was like moderately interested, and then green was really interested, or
Right.
red when it was furious and would hang up on you. I think you should be able to call up a committee member if like you're an 8-5 Buffalo and you're like, hey, listen, I got an idea, and you just really tick off one of the committee
I mean,
members.
and here's the other part of that too is does that then play into the way you are seen in the coaching carousel? Are you, are you seen as a fool? Are you seen as somebody that will always go to bat for his program? Are you seen as a guy that's too dedicated to ever pry away from Western Michigan? I don't know, but like again, so I will tell you, I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. My college roommate was a big player, and we were friends. We just didn't do that. I just didn't do this thing with him, but I would often sit and observe. Right, so I know that every choice is factored or is a factor in every choice going forward. I don't see why we can't do that in the video game, particularly if we're trying to make this realistic in a sport where that very much is the case.
Yeah. Like, could you, like, even let's just say,
Like
you're
again, like so in real life, right? Why is Jamie Chadwell the head coach at Liberty now? Because he could not get taken seriously for a Power 5 job despite all of his accomplishments. And he just saw Hugh Freeze make the jump from Liberty to Auburn. It felt like a no-brainer to him. He's been on the record about this stuff.
oh. See, I thought it was because he wanted to mold people in Christianity.
Well, I mean, that is, I think, what his haircut says, certainly.
Which, by the way, was a quote he used in his acceptance press conference, introductory press conference, which was, at Liberty, you can really sort of mold young men to the Christian faith.
And then he followed that up by saying, we haven't seen a coach here do that yet, but I hope to be the first.
Listen, I'd like to be it, Yeah, you're right as far as the decision making, right? Like,
yeah.
If you go beyond just 8-5 Buffalo trying to make a case and getting laughed out of the room, right, and hurting the carousel, what if you're poor upstart Alabama, right?
Sure.
That needs its coach to go to bat for its team because no one has seen any of their games this year, or no one knows what it's like to be a 6-time national champion head coach. If you make that case for like the 4 seed versus the 5, because then we're talking about like hosting first round games, getting the first round bye, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Well, not hosting yet, technically won't be on the table for 2024 yet, but maybe soon. Then I think we're talking about like then maybe you're punished by you get voted to the 6th seed or the 7th seed instead of the 4th seed, like you were so pushing for. Like I think I don't want to say vendetta or anything, but I just think if you want to go every year and just sort of make the case to bat for your team, I'm okay with like there being negative consequences too. Because
Sure.
I think that should be like if you're ridiculous with Buffalo or if you're Nick Saban saying, "Hey, what about the point spread? Doesn't that matter?" Like then I think you should get laughed out of rooms and maybe Condoleezza Rice is back in the committee and says, "No, sir, You're a 7 seed now."
How great would it be to, especially with the ability with these systems that are going to be download only? How great would it be to have the actual playoff committee members animated in the game?
Oh, to get Boo Corrigan or Condoleezza Rice or
Yeah.
any of these fellers and fellas and fellettes.
Just always Tyrone Willingham sitting in the corner, like nodding at a conference call.
Bill Hancock telling you nothing's ever going to happen, and
That's
then
right.
it happens, and he says nothing's ever going to happen again because he's literally paid to say nothing by the college football playoff committee, and before by the BCS, which
Right.
is a pretty good gig. He's been there since '98, essentially. I think since '98, being the whole hey, nothing's happening, relax, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, we're moving it. Yeah, we're happening, but nothing else is happening.
Mind your business.
Would you want them in the? I would want.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I would want to. Okay, let me ask you this: based on the lobbying, okay?
Yeah.
Would you want your coach to go in front of the actual committee, like standing in front of them, right before they would give the vote and just
what
say,
I would?
"Here's this plea"?
You know what? Really, I would want. I would want one of those old school triangle speaker phones on the table, where you see them listening to your call.
Oh yeah, and then maybe off to the side you see. Now this would be what Boo Corrigan does. Like he's listening,
Right.
and does like the whack off motion while you're talking.
Right. You see Jim Grobe write a little note and slide it across the table to Boo Corrigan.
Maybe Barry Alvarez at one point is like asleep in the corner.
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty solid. I'd be all right with that.
Is he still? Is he still?
I don't think he is. I think he was though.
Okay.
I don't think he's on this committee. I mean, Tyrone Willingham. Tyrone Willingham.
No, I think Tyrone Willingham might be dead.
I can't say no. I don't actually.
Yeah, I don't think he is, but I'm not comfortable saying he's definitely not.
Hey, rest in peace, or hey, love to hear from you.
Sure.
To Tyrone Willingham. Okay, let's get back to the lobbying part.
Yeah.
So you have your coach on speakerphone in this conference room, making his case, through various questions that you have multiple choices to, and then the results actually come down. Do you think this is an intensive process? You think you get like 3 or 4 questions?
I think that you can get up to 4. But once they say, "Okay, coach, thank you, we've heard all we need to," you do get to make one more choice to just throw out there at the end.
Oh, now okay, so 4 seems like a lot for me. I know it wouldn't be like a fuller experience. 4 just sort of feels like a lot because I would think the AI on the game would be great if the AI could figure out, hey, your strength of schedule or whatever. Which, by the way, those kind of metrics need to make their way into the game.
I think they will. I suspect they will.
I would be surprised. Like, I don't know if I need, although there's a pretty good chance there might be, like the ESPN win probability thing, which is just the most ridiculous thing on the planet.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I need to figure out their, their win matrix and their, projected win rate. But if you sort of give me some of the stats that we're sort of more accustomed to, then I think you're probably looking at 2 or 3. But you know what I would like if I will go to 2 or the 3. See, I don't even know how you would do it, but let's not care how you do it.
Sure.
Let's say one of the committee members brings up that, hey, tell us why we should choose you over Virginia. And then it's actually a direct comparison, as opposed to just boldly stating, that you make your case. Maybe one committee member every now and then, or maybe every time, ask you a direct comparison to someone that you're being compared to and say, all right, why should we choose you over them? And please don't say point spreads.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that one of the options should always be something very absurd. And who knows, maybe sometimes it works or maybe it sways one committee member, but it's always like it's that one that's like tempted you that it's not going to work, but you want to pick it just to see what's going to happen. Why should you choose Marshall over Virginia? Academics, of course.
Well, it's just like in all those Red Dead games. Like that's the one that immediately gets you like shot.
Yeah.
You're like, oh well, I just want to know what it was like. I didn't expect this one would get me escorted out of the room, but I'm glad I now know this. And not to pick on Nick Saban, but I feel like one of the questions should eventually be like, hey, to them specifically, hey, do you think your fans will travel? Do they still have money based on all your travel? Because they do travel.
Listen, I do like the idea of EA having the balls, let's say, to put some questions in there that are like, come on, we're making a TV show. Like, do you think people are going to tune in to watch you play Tulane in a playoff game?
Okay. Now there's some meat on this bone.
Yeah.
If Electronic Arts is really wanting to make this like a meteor product, right? Let's put a little NFL playmakers to this, right? Like, let's get a little bit of the real dirt talk. Let's get some like words and some venom in there, and let's just reveal at the end of the day, like inside the committee room, because that's another aspect that I think could be interesting, which is, the committee, who we'll never name, so we can have this potentially fun thing.
Right.
The committee says, listen, do you think people are going to watch UCF in Georgia? Let's put in Ohio State.
Right.
You're like, no.
Or here's the other one, Arky. Here's the other one. Because this would have, I think, some real potential carryover with your coach in the rest of the game. One of the options should always be to what's the word? I guess I'll just call it shit talk. The conference of the other candidate team.
Oh, were you going to talk about negging?
Negging, yes.
Like where you you portray negative thoughts onto someone to try to get them to think that, hey, he doesn't think much of me, I must think much of him.
Right. So right now, the last so if we had a 12-team playoff now, the Tulane would be the 12 seed. The 11 seed would be Penn State. Penn State, Florida State, Washington would all sort of be in that discussion for that number 11 seed. If you are, if you're Kalen DeBoer, shouldn't you be able to go, gosh, really? I mean, after Michigan and Ohio State, what was the Big Ten? And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Penn State lose by multiple scores to both of those teams? It's really embarrassing.
I would like to be able to connect my web TV keyboard just to be able to type all that out.
Right. Yes.
Just to be able to do the really embarrassing.
Really.
Question mark?
Really embarrassing. How valuable really is a 10-point win over Northwestern?
Think about it. Just think about it. Get back to me.
Their best win is a team not even ranked, and that's in their conference.
Yeah, so listen, I'm not telling you what you need to do. I'm just telling you the facts, Like, if you just look at this looks gross. So, again, not mine to say they're a great program. They're fine. They suck. That's all. Like,
right.
They're not that good.
Right.
But again, great coach, great program. But again, no one likes them. So.
And listen, I understand why you would consider them. They've accomplished a lot, but are you men of honor or not? That's my question to you.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, I didn't want to have to bring this up, but I guess no one's going to bring up the child molestation thing, huh? Like, no it's just the elephant sitting in the room, right? Like that's that program, right? Am I wrong? Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy? I wasn't in a shot. Okay, forget it. So that's a lot for my browser to be able to put type for the keyboard. But you know what? If you're giving me all the characters, I'm typing it in. So, but yeah, I think there should be more interactivity because with you, I did like Dynasty mode in the last game, but I did think I lost some of that interactivity that would have made it better. The recruiting definitely wasn't nearly as fun. It was so boilerplate, right? Compared to what it had been before. We had seen it touch the sun with that angry football on the telephone,
Yes.
right? So like it had hit its zenith, and it was all the way down. It didn't take long to get there. Okay, so I think I think this. I do you think this is something that? How do I say it? Is this something that would encourage you to buy the game if you didn't buy the game? If you didn't get it, like, is this a feature that you would see as like I don't say necessary, but like one that would make you jump out if you weren't someone buying? Because I'm trying to think of the value for someone who's outside.
I think this is the kind of thing that if you or I were pitching to, like, think of your friend who loves sport. Like, all right, think of our shared boss at one point, right? Loves sports, but is not a college football person. If he were a video game player, don't you think being able to say, yeah, it's college football, but the game is so much more than just playing with these teams that don't mean anything to you the way they do to us?
For those only listening, I'm nodding in my sort of semi like, yeah, okay.
I mean, at this point, really, what we are kind of talking about is sort of it's like an RPG sort of element comes to sports. And in that way, similar to Field of Dreams, similar to The Natural, like, it's not just a sports movie. It's not just about baseball.
Yeah.
I think that's the element that widens the appeal of this game a little bit.
I do want to say this before we go. We are also talking about something that's doable. It's completely doable. It's literally been done, right? Like versions of this have been done, just not quite to this kind of level. But again, we always ask, what's the limit? We don't know what the limit is.
Yeah.
Right? Like we don't know what the limit is. We know that what we're talking about isn't an insane ask. It is something we have seen elements of throughout other games, and I'm sure
other games in this series.
Yes, I'm sure there's not proprietary technology that doesn't keep me from talking crap about Penn State in the committee room. I'm sure of
I'm sorry, the folks at Grand Theft Auto have a patent on the Penn State shit talk.
Well, buy it, okay? Like, or rent it, royalties, whatever you need to do. License it, that's the word.
Yeah, that's why there is that mode in Grand Theft Auto where you could sort of like, do a fishtail in your Camaro, and you lead out the window with an automatic weapon and fire it in the air and yell like, "Fuck LeVar Arrington!"
Oh, man. By the way, you just unlocked an achievement, the LeVar Arrington achievement, which you did not know was buried deep in that game.
Deep in the game, yeah.
Good job. That's gamer points for you. All right, before we get out of here, here's some comments from last week's show. Reminder, we're working on an all questions from you guys, the ones who actually listen and pay attention to this. You can tweet at us too, by the way, at Arky Shea, at Demetri Ravanos.
If you're watching this on YouTube, our Twitter handles are right there at the bottom.
Yeah, those aren't. We don't actually write our names that way in everyday life. Those Twitter ads,
that is how I sign checks.
Yeah. By the way, what's interesting? I like that most companies essentially say that an @ is a handle for whatever you want to do, for TikTok or Twitter or whatever. Which I'm on TikTok. We talk and tick all the time. But honestly, we want to hear from you. We want some questions about the game, about what we think about the game, and anything else. We're working on an entire listener submission podcast coming up. So send those below on the old comments. But from last
week, to ask about our favorite hot dog toppings. Mine's going to surprise you.
Let's go to this is from Raider7528, who said, "I'm still waiting over 17 years for NFL 2K."
Well, one day, buddy. One day.
Yeah, let's not stop the waiting now, right? Let's continue the waiting. Like, what are we doing? This comes from Draco, who says, "It hurts my soul that the game got canceled." Well, that's not necessarily semantics.
Canceled.
It's not been canceled yet. It's been delayed. Although they don't even say delayed. So if we never get it, this podcast will go on in perpetuity. I was expecting it to be soon. I was getting ready to buy Series S. That's Xbox, Demetri, you Xbox hating fool. But I hope this is a good delay, not a bad one. I would like to see them add decommit features on the game, even with the transfer portal having its own point not tied to recruiting. So
Oh,
essentially,
so like
yeah,
you
so
have your recruiting points in
yeah,
the
transfer
transfer
portal
portal.
points.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like the idea of decommitment. I think that's fantastic.
They have mentioned outside, in their press. I should say outside, like they were outside my window. They have
Yeah.
mentioned in their discussions.
Arky's going to pull up that those blinds behind him, and you're going to see he's been inside EA headquarters this whole time.
That's true. You see the Tiburon shark? Right, that's the guy.
That'd
they're
be even better if you just didn't get the assignment at all, and you open up your blinds, we find out you're underwater, surrounded by sharks.
I did feel like the pressure in my ears
Yeah,
was a little off.
They make video games, right? That's what I'm down here.
Yeah, I just thought I went to the aquarium. That's crazy. But they have mentioned the transfer portal is going to be a part of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, how could it not be, right? Especially with Deion Sanders' kid, who is, I guess, no longer available. Like, I guess, was he officially in the transfer portal when he made the plane ride up to Boulder with his dad? Who knows at that point? Joel Bell comments. Let me throw this out here. What about Pat McAfee? Kirk and Pat? I love it. I'm essentially assuming that is for the booth he is asking, which would be it'd be an interesting booth.
It would be. I mean, remember, Pat McAfee and Matt Hasselbeck was an interesting booth. Remember the year that they did the Thursday night game?
Yeah, but they weren't in. Boy, God bless Pat McAfee for doing those games with Matt Hasselbeck. But it wasn't like he would. Well, let's be.
Is this a quit while we're ahead sort of thing?
Like a Pat McAfee booth, I can come in and out of normal, but a video game is there the entire time, and you wonder with someone like Pat McAfee's energy, like and some of the way he talks, and like he has the way he says things, like a bot and all that stuff, like how quickly in the AI that gets recycled to where you're like, I will burn this game if I ever have to hear it again, because all the other stuff got repetitive. Why wouldn't that, right? And all the other stuff was just game talk, like tackles and so on and forth. This wouldn't be like Pat McAfee yelling in his I don't know what his heritage is. What is he? White? Yeah.
Internet.
He's who?
Internet.
He's internet. He is West Virginia internet. That's what he is.
Right.
So I'm not sure what that energy level would be before I just want to throw something against the wall. But like if it's on a game day type set that they have, yeah, absolutely. Why not? I think that would be great.
I guess isn't he from like right outside of Pittsburgh? I guess he'd be from the Yinsternet.
And fun. Oh, you're waving away? Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing the George Costanza walking out on I.
Well, let's see if you got one more in the bucket here.
All
so
right.
The last comment, this comes from Coach Guns, who comments, I do indeed think the game will come out. They especially have committed to this 2024 date. Well, I mean, especially. They just said a year. How easy would it be to just say it was delayed indefinitely? So they did put the world on notice with 2024. Regardless if the game is ready or not, I see us getting it somewhere in 2024. He does make a good point. We did get a year.
Yeah.
But the only way we knew 2023 is through some investigative reporting, technically.
Yep.
So technically putting out a year does make it feel like it's real, but a year is how many days, Demetri?
8 or 9?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's 525,600 minutes. So
don't think Arky Shea doesn't know his Broadway.
Oh yeah. Oh man. By the way, that's not even the best song in Rent. I'll be honest.
Go ahead, break into song. I got time.
Who do you think you are? Busting in on me and my guitar. Little girl, hey, the door is that way. The fire's out anyway.
Man, my daughter is a big Broadway kid, and I have been praying for her to be like, oh, I want to see Rent, or I want to see Les Miserables, and nope, it's all fucking Hamilton. Which
one that's been around for 7 minutes.
I mean, boy, okay, Arky. I have never had less fun in my life than I did attending Hamilton.
Well, that is surprising to me. That is surprising to me.
Considering I've had multiple surgeries.
Yes.
I would rather have surgery again than the fucking school assembly hip hop play.
You know, Lin-Manuel Miranda is not going to like hearing that, so we're going to tag
Listen,
him.
he did marvelous work on Moana. Marvelous work. Great work on Encanto. Hamilton kind of blows.
You're one of like 7 people with that opinion. I haven't seen it, so I do not know. I'm not a musical
Arky,
guy.
every time I express this opinion on the internet, it is almost as if I said, Kanye West makes some good points.
I don't want to get into Kanye, but man, can you believe the words he says out loud?
I mean, man, people want to fight.
Okay, so look, before we go, because that's wrapping it up. Are you a Rent fan? Because most people poop on. Most people think Rent is kind of crappy for.
Let me be honest with you, Arky. I have never seen it, but when the movie came out, we were sent the soundtrack at the radio station I was working at, and it may have come home with me.
Oh yeah, okay, good. The play much sadder than the movie itself. I didn't cry, but I was like, man, AIDS sucks.
That's how you learned.
That's how I learned. I was like, whoo. Well, we should be. Are we doing something about this? Somebody know about
all
this?
Those PSAs starring Elton John and Magic Johnson made it seem like a party.
Yeah, this is way bad. Way bad. Like this is like there is. I don't know. There's levels of bad. This is pretty high up on the bad.
Yeah.
All right, that's gonna do it for us, Demetri. Not sure how to end an age rant there, but here we go.
Hey,
you want to say good
next week?